It's my turn, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, folks, and welcome to Almost in Focus episode. Tom, insert number here because I've forgotten.
14.
Thank you. And this episode, we are talking to Paul Clements, a former tutor of mine on the MA at Falmouth, and therefore he's having to put up with me once again, except this time without being paid. Whereas previously, at least he had to listen to my ramblings. It was work rather than his own time. So thank you very much, Paul, for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, we've had a bit of an adventure this week, which do you want to just sort of do a little intro on that before we get into it with Paul?
Yeah, I suppose we ought to. We normally do our little, what have we been doing? Well, we've actually been together.
I know.
So based on the chat we had with Vintage Visual a couple of months ago, we took my Aggo processor to a little village called Crick, which has got a very big marina, narrowboat marina. And we decided, some lovely food, lovely pubs.
Yeah.
And we decided to challenge ourselves to photograph in Crick and then develop the film in Crick as well. So we had no way of knowing how accurate we were with the temperature of the chemistry, and it turned out we were a long way off. We added 15 minutes to our developing time because our chemistry was so cold. We had nice food. We had a pint of Guinness Zero.
We had the added bonus of the barmaid and landlord being rather interested in what we were doing and having a chat, so we made new friends.
Yeah, I think they were convinced I was doing something a bit untoward with this long black tube and dark coloured liquids being poured into it. It was a bit sinister looking.
It did look a little bit like a chemistry experiment gone wrong.
It did. But it worked, and we got good, some nice results from it. I'm not going to say great results because they weren't our greatest photos. I've scanned most of my... I've scanned some of my daughters. You haven't done yours yet because you're slacking.
Yeah, God forbid doing paid work today.
So there's going to be a little video of that coming out in the coming weeks once we've finished editing it and so on. So see what we did and how we did it and the wonders of that processing machine, because it's quite a cool little tool to have.
Yeah. And with that,
I suppose that's both our news in one go, isn't it?
Yeah, that was quick and easy. We can dive into our guest for the day. So, Paul, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving the listeners a whistle-stop tour of your photography career, because it's kind of extremely varied. You've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, I guess, in some respects. Newspaper man to academia.
And beyond, yes.
And beyond.
Yeah, it's really strange. I started off actually working in the NHS as an operating department practitioner. I was always interested in photography, so we once we finished our training, we were given a theatre or an anaesthetic room was kind of our kind of zone. And I used to put loads of Don McCullum pictures up on the wall and stuff, completely against hospital policy. But anyway, and I was really into photography. Then I started hanging out with the medical photographers, but I didn't really know any photographers at all. So I used to get myself up to the Photographers Gallery, which used to be in Great Newport Street in just off Charing Cross Road, and sort of hang out at the weekend, and trying to latch on to photographers because all I had was Amateur Photographer magazine to learn from, and I didn't have anything else. So I sort of kind of barged my way into the print room, and Francis Hodgson was then the print room manager. He's now the photography critic on the Daily Telegraph, or he was anyway. So I got talking to him, and he was showing me all these Bill Brandt prints and things from the archives, and I really didn't know what I was looking at because I was I didn't know anything really. So I sort of hung out in the Photographers Gallery and went to exhibitions. I went to a John Pilger exhibition. And I got there early, and I was sitting in the corridor, and Philip Jones Griffiths walks in, and I knew who he was because I was he came up on Amateur Photographer magazine with Vietnam ink and things. So he walked in, and my first camera was Olympus OM1, the black one that I got from my local chemist shop when chemists used to sell cameras. And he was also into those as well, and he looked at my camera and he went, "Oh, nice." I'm kind of walked off. And I just froze to the spot. I didn't really know what to say to him or anything. You know, it was really embarrassing. He's a really tall man, and I was sitting down. So anyway, I finally decided at the age of, I think I was 26, to go and do a photography course. Now, I'd met at the photographer's gallery, I think it was about 86, Sharon Chazon, who was at Newport. And she encouraged me to apply to Newport, which I did do. But I didn't apply to Newport till about 1990, I think it was. And I wasn't too sure about applying anywhere else. And then it was a BTEC HND at Newport in that small college in the town centre. And I thought, well, I better just take my chances. And I applied for a degree in Scotland because it didn't show up on the UCAS form, the Scottish degrees, because they were very adamant. If you applied for Newport, you couldn't apply anywhere else. That was it. Anyway, I got a place at Newport, and then I also got an unconditional offer for Edinburgh. And at that time, David Hearn had just left, and Daniel Meadows and Clive Landon was still there, who I got interviewed by. And the interview was really strange as well, because I was sitting on this, in this room with 4 people in front of me, with a student as well, and Daniel Meadows was walking around me, eating an apple, asking me questions from all over the place. But anyway, I didn't take the place at Newport. I went to Edinburgh because it was a 4-year degree course. And that actually came in handy later on when I went to teaching to have a degree rather than the BTEC HND as it was then. So I went to Edinburgh, did my 4-year degree, and I had a great time. It was great. The best times ever, really.
See, I suffered a very similar interview with Clive Landon, to be fair. I remember, did you have Clive when you had your interview, Tom?
No, I had Pete Davis for mine.
Oh, no. No, I had Clive, and he talked photo books. And I think I'm convinced the only reason I got in to Newport, it can't have been the portfolio, because my work at A-level was appalling. It was the most banal dross you can imagine. Teenagers being sad in graveyards. But I talked about Sontag, and I talked about Berger, and I talked about McCullen, and I obviously managed to convince him that while I couldn't take a picture at that point to save my life, I was interested in the right things. But I remember coming out of that interview and being like, that guy's terrifying. Tiny, but terrifying. But
love Clive.
Yeah, he was, that was the only time I met him. And, and I got shown around by a student to start with, and the student was giving me clues or answers to the questions they were going to answer me. But yeah, and I did my degree in Edinburgh, which I absolutely loved. I was with Margaret Mitchell was there, and also oh goodness, I've forgotten the first name, Hannah Starkey, and it was great. We had a great time. And then I then did my postgrad in photojournalism at LCC, because it was a postgrad diploma. They didn't do an MA then; it was a PG dip with Patrick Sutherland, but it was a very, very small class. It was 10 or 12 people, and we had all these great people coming in, to do go through our contact sheets. James Nachtwey, Ian Berry, all these other kind of people, because I know Patrick had been at Newport as well, so he did all these other connections as well, and we had a couple of teachers who did teach at Newport on our course as well. So that was great. And then I was living with my parents in Sussex at the time, because I was still in Scotland. I had a flat in Scotland. My partner was still in Scotland, so I'd go home at kind of weekends and live with my parents during the week. And just get the Thames link up to Farringdon, because it was at Backhill in Clerkenwell then. Anyway, so after that, I then went back to Scotland, and then really kind of started wedging my way into working for Scottish newspapers and other people like the Sunday Times, the Telegraph, Guardian had offices as well in Scotland. So I was working for them, as well as the Scotsman, Glasgow Herald. I also did some spec stories with Associated Press and also with New York Times. But they were self-initiated, kind of on spec kind of stuff, which I didn't really like to do, because there was no guarantee you would get paid. You had to do the work first. And I think that's the way it is at the moment as well. But then it was very rare to do that kind of thing.
I was going to say, I think the industry's gone to the point where if you want to, it's not the same as it was. We talk about this quite regularly, don't we?
Yeah,
Tom,
of course.
Yeah.
that, you know, outlets for documentary photography specifically, or journalism, and there isn't
Yeah,
any.
yeah. No, there isn't any. And it's all done
It's
on spec,
gallery.
you know. Yeah, and it's all
Yeah.
done kind of on spec now. I mean, it's like whenever I was working
Mm.
for maybe one publication, I would always be looking for other things to do at the same time. So if they sent me to like Abbey Road or somewhere for the day, I would be like photographing every single thing in there, you know, from the pianos that, you know, McCartney, Lennon played on, because they're still there, they're still studio pianos.
Mm.
All the little details, every single thing I could get. So that would go into stock or sell that on elsewhere. So you're always looking, you know, kind of more multitasking for other things while you're working as well, just to do things. And also that would then be able to fund my own kind of personal, private kind of projects work I wanted to do, really. So,
Now, I
but yeah,
remember my first interaction with you, Paul, was on Instagram. We've never met before properly.
right,
This is our first time actually meeting.
sure.
But I think it was just after lockdown or during in that period of time. Anyway, there was a fire in my town on the other side of the valley from where I live. And the photograph that I made of it, I sent it over to my local newspaper saying, do you want to use this photograph? It made a front page. And your reaction to that was quite eye-opening for me. And so it brought a lot of the stuff that you're saying and Toby's saying to light, in that how the industry is. And I mean, it's a Bucks Free Press. It's a local newspaper which, you know, over exaggerate every headline. You know, it's kind of run like by one man and his dog kind of idea.
Sure.
So, you know, they don't
There
pay
goes
for
our
the photos.
sponsorship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't pay for the photos.
No, of course not.
And your frustration with the newspapers, even on that low level, not even paying a fiver.
No, no. Well, you just think about how much you spend on all of your equipment, your laptops, everything, and they want you to do it for free. It's like they don't ring up British Telecom or a plumber and say, "Can you come and work for us for free?" Because they'll tell them where to go, you know. But you know, unfortunately, that's the way it's gone, and it has changed immensely. I mean, when I went onto the Scotsman, walking into the news desk, it's that big building on North Bridge. It's now a hotel. It was like something out of the Washington Post or something, you know, or the President's Men. It was huge. And we had, and what I think I do miss as well was the interaction with journalists and photographers. We had the dark room where we'd all hang out, drink coffee, get all our stuff, all our work processed. We'd have a really good darkroom technicians who would turn around and work really quickly for us. But it was a way of interacting and networking as well within that community, really. But now, you know, if you're working now as a photographer for a publication, you're not really seeing other photographers. You're sending in your work from Costa or somewhere, you know. You haven't really got that interaction anymore. And I think, you know, something I really do miss of being in that kind of situation and that kind of networking and getting information on, you know, what's happening within the gossipy world of politics and things. So that's kind of gone, which is a bit of a shame.
It's a loss of community, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We say this, you know, photographers get better by working with other photographers. But there is an element of like, don't look at mine, this is my little project. There's always that. But the only way to get better is to show your work to other people. Get honest
Definitely.
feedback.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between sticking it on Instagram or, you know, whatever social media platform you choose to use and getting the feedback
Sure.
of strangers. And the sometimes the anonymous feedback versus
I
sitting
really
with someone.
I really like that feedback from strangers as well. I mean, I think it's really good to have your, you know, to edit your work away from the laptop, actually print out work that's, you know, just on cheap paper and just stick it to the wall. And then people are coming to your house, whether they be your uncles and aunties or the postman, you can get them to look as well because, you know, we can't control the scopic regimes. Everybody's got their own baggage they bring to the party. But they, you know, I really want their opinion. You know, they might think, well, that works, or maybe if we change this around and do this. But actually getting your work on the wall, I think, is the only way to kind of edit work like that and sequence it, rather than being tied to, a computer screen, I think.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah,
We're both big fans of that. I mean, as a teacher, I struggle massively with teenagers going, print a contact sheet.
Sure.
Well, it's on the no. I'm not looking at it on a screen. I
I
think
know.
you have it's the same problem, don't you, Tom?
they've taken the printer out of my classroom now, so it's even harder. But that's another story.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was at LCC, all our work was on contact sheets. You just took your contact sheets into a crit. And we had a chap called John Benton Harris, who actually was at Newport as well. He's an American photographer, but he knew like Winogrand and all these, and Frank and everybody in New York. And I got a really strange message from The Guardian about 2 years ago. He died and they wanted me to do his obituary, which I did do. I don't know who suggested I'd do it, but I did it and I got paid very well. So that was very good. But he was ruthless and he would wear those kind of, those kind of welding goggles? Have you seen them?
Oh, yeah.
Some people, they're almost like wearing, but they're like magnifying jewelers. Are they jewelers?
Yeah.
But he would like look at you and he would, his eyes would be like 25 times magnification. And he was absolutely vicious. Andrew Burnham came out, he came out just before I went in. He came out crying. And then I went in and I thought, I couldn't stop laughing because I knew what was going to happen because work wasn't very good. And he was going through these contact sheets and looking at me with his big eyes like this. And he turned around to me and he said, this work is effing S-H-I-T. And he ripped up my contact sheets and threw them out the window. It's just, what's going on? I mean, you would not be able to do that. And I don't think that's a very good way of, doing a crit at all.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining someone in a suit walking through Elephant and Castle and just having bits of photographic paper rain down.
I know, fluttering down, like a ticker tape, parade. No, we were in Clerkenwell then because I hadn't moved in back to Elephant Castle. We had this really lovely Art Deco building in Back Hill, which was gorgeous. Yeah.
But photography education was like that even early 2000s because we had in our first year, you'll remember this, we put up our first project on the wall in the darkroom.
Yeah.
And it was just your work prints up on the wall.
Yes, yeah.
And there was 80 of us who started on that course, and I think 25 finished, if I'm right. Is that right, Tom? Something like that?
It was around there. It was a huge dropout rate, which sounds appalling.
Goodness me.
It was brutal.
It was because the course was so tough, and it was great.
Yeah.
But in that first year, when you came to signing up for your the group crits, and it was always like a stampede because no one wanted to be on the list of the most strict shooters.
Yeah.
And you had the choice of Clive Landon, Ken Grant, and Pete Davis.
Oh dear.
And they're all strict their own way.
Yeah. They don't take prisoners. Yeah.
No. Well, to be fair, everyone wanted Ken because he was nice about it.
Yeah, he was quite gentle in his negativity. He was gentle.
I got Clive all the time. And then I suffered Paul Rees after that. So
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. So I had one after the other, but they were both very strict, and it helped.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that first year,
yeah.
we put the prints up, and Clive walked along, and he just started pulling them off the wall, going, shit.
Yeah, but it's really. I mean, I do not agree with this way of teaching at all, but it kind of sets you up. Everything you do. I remember, I've been in some very scary situations. I've been in, I was in Bet Jala during the Second Intifada, and the place was getting bombed, and I'm thinking, yeah, but it's not as hard as a John Benton Harris kind of crit. It's like he saved me, from this. It's not as scary. So. Yeah, it's a really strange kind of, but I can smell him. I can see him. He's in the back of my head all the time, He's there.
But poking on, yeah. But I think that's kind of, while it's tough, sometimes it's the best way to learn. And it doesn't necessarily have to be quite as brutal as that.
No, it doesn't have to be as brutal as that.
But there's got to be somewhere,
Yeah.
Because everyone's a winner is a terrible way to teach.
Yeah, but that's the way it is at the moment. Yeah, I mean... Yeah. I don't think... Yeah, it's not a competition. I don't think it shouldn't be a competition, but in a way it's become a competition because every student now wants validation. as well. So
Yeah.
it's a very difficult kind of road to tread, really, as a tutor.
I mean, photography's always been quite a difficult subject in itself to seek validation in because it's so subjective.
Of course, but then you have guidelines, don't you, and learning outcomes to which to
Oh yeah,
judge, to actually see what the work's like, and also the actual marking is shared. Well, it was shared, when I was doing it, it was shared amongst us all. And we came to an agreement. We were all basically in the same area, but you'd come to an agreement of what marks should be, which I think is a good way, really.
Consensus. Yeah.
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 I don't think, ripping up contact sheets and throwing out the windows is a really good thing, but it has stuck with me. And I actually managed to get that into the obituary as well. They didn't take that out. And his family, I got a really nice letter from his family thanking me, and they would say, because I thought, oh God, they're not going to really like this. I say this about him. They also their dad, and they were very kind.
Sorry, I completely hijacked your narrative there. Sorry, but it was really interesting. I just love this image of, like you say, Tom, torn up contact sheets raining down on people. It's just
maybe
sort of some real experience.
Reenact it. Yeah. I'll have it for my funeral or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. Yeah, now Tom said it, that's another thing. I'd be dreaming about that tonight. I'd be like, be in the back of my mind.
I was sort of imagining like a Gregory Cruton photo.
Yeah.
See, I've got the mental image now. That's it. That's brilliant.
So definitely, whenever you do a contact sheet, you always remember that.
So I just have images of people tearing them up and chucking them out windows.
Yeah.
So from there, from there, where was the next sort of step for you?
Well, I was getting a bit I was like working for newspapers and I thought I was really naive. I went into like newspaper photography to change the world. I thought it was going to be, but I was coming up because it's really kind of, people are actually quite right wing who work in the industry. And I was really shocked by that. I thought everybody would be very kind of left wing, extremely left wing and want to change the world and speak truth to power and all this kind of stuff, which they don't do at all. They are part of the establishment, I'm afraid. So I kind of drifted away from that. And when I moved to London, it was really lovely, actually, because I was working for Scottish publications back in London, but I was doing more editorial work. And because I had children by then, I was first child, rather than doing news work where you go out the door and you don't know when you're coming back, editorial is more kind of, you can arrange the time to see somebody. So I'd arrange, because my wife was working full time as well. So if I was doing somebody, I'd like phone them up, say, can we do it, about 12 o'clock, which allowed me to do the school run. I could drop the kids off and pick them up. So that was really lovely. So I kept on doing that kind of stuff. And then I kind of, I was then getting a bit despondent about it. But the good thing is when you are in that position, you can kind of pick and choose the kind of jobs you wanted. Back in those days, that was the early kind of 2000s. And I could also as well, because it was editorial and, I could do the work today, but they didn't need it till like the end of the week. I could sneak in and do it on film as well, which was great. And also I could either, process it myself or get it processed and scanned and sent to them. Or the best thing I used to love doing was actually sending film in a Sunday Times envelope at the 24-hour post office that used to be in Trafalgar Square back to Kenning Park in Glasgow. So that was lovely. I like all the ephemera you get with, being a photographer, all those envelopes and press passes, and I've kept them all, because I love all those things. I mean, it's a bit sad, I know, but no, it's great.
I think we're all secretly hoarders. I think photographers.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
By our nature, cameras, lenses, bits of film.
I know. An empty Tri-X 400, 30-meter roll bulk load film, the tins are really lovely. But anyway, that's what happened. Then I kind of drifted away, and I was drifting away, and then looking after my children, and then the job came up at Falmouth, so I took it, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I learned an awful lot because, as you both know, it's a kind of two-way process between you and the students. You learn an awful lot from them as well, and also from my colleagues as well.
So I've got here, this is a load of flattened out film canisters, which I've been keeping in this box for about 2 years. I don't know why, but
I think it's an age thing.
Yeah. It might be useful at some point, so don't throw it out.
and the box is one of those roadie boxes from Silverprint back in the early 2000s as
Oh,
well.
so
I've
you,
had
I
it
see
all
you
that time
stroking
as
it.
well.
Yeah, but yeah, so Falmouth was
Falmouth,
the
yeah. So yeah, Falmouth. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I really do miss the students. I miss my colleagues. I learned an awful lot from my colleagues. They were absolutely fantastic. I really loved it. And I loved the face-to-face events because I just got to live in the darkroom for 4 days, because I got a great darkroom at Falmouth, doing black and white, process and developing and everything. I absolutely adored it. So I missed the face-to-faces. They were really good. And yeah, I do miss it. But I was there for 7 years, and because I'm such an empath, I was like taking all the students' problems on my shoulders, worrying about them, what I said to them in the webinar, whether I didn't choose the right people fast enough or whatever. All these worries would completely overwhelm me, and after 7 years, I was quite exhausted from it, But yeah, I absolutely adored it. I recommend it to anybody to go and do something like that because, like I said, I learned an awful lot, and it made me read an awful lot as well, and it also really emphasised about how important research is to do. I mean, I absolutely love doing research, to such a level I became like hyper fixated by it. I absolutely loved it, I thought, and I think Laura said something to me, and I think that's always stuck in my mind. She was talking about research and the process, and she said the process, will always have something to say, and will also, help your work evolve. I thought that's such a lovely thing to say because it's so true. And I got really fixated in the process. It's not actually, taking the image. Yeah, that's fine. But I was really wanted to know about the students' process and why they were doing things, and what they had on their packed lunch on the way to wherever they was going to work. And did you photograph the packed lunch? I was saying, did you photograph? Because I'm really interested again about train tickets, all these other things that are part of the process that will go into your critical journal to give that kind of background. I think it's really, really important.
So I have to say, I really enjoyed. I mean, it was Positions in Practice that was your main unit for when I was doing them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And not because I'm being a swot or anything, but that's some of the research stuff from there that I still hang on to and pull pages out to show my students. I'll admit,
yeah.
as soon, and when I knew that I was coming to the end of the course, I went into every single file that we had on that MA and downloaded the lot.
Yeah, because you have access for it for a year after you leave as well,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah, and I was grabbing everything.
Well, my first job was actually informing context. I got a phone call on the Friday. It was halfway through the module because the tutor had left after 4 weeks. And I got a phone call on the Friday from Steph, who I did know because she did work experience when I was at the Glasgow Herald, and she was a really young student, and she came in, and she said, "Oh, would you like to, help out at Falmouth and, maybe step into tutor work?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to do that." And she rang me up on the Friday, and I said, "Oh, when do I start?" Thinking it'd be like a couple of months. She said, "Monday." So it's like, this is informing context. You know how hardcore that module is. And then I had a crash course with Ben Timley on Canvas and all those other things you had to learn. And I was teaching on Tuesday. Yeah, so it was a bit mad, but the way to do it really. And I made me read a lot because obviously, and that's where I got interested because not every photographers are they're very much into alternative processes or documentary or still life, landscape. So you have to read around everything, for those coming to you with those questions at the webinar.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm thinking, I am, photojournalism is in my heart, but I think it's really good to look outside of that as well, because you don't know if you can bring those parts of that work to your practice as well. I think being too much, photojournalist, it's like you need to look outside, I think, as well to bring things that may well help your own practice. So that really helped,
when I was at LCC doing my masters, what was her name? I had a tutor, I can't remember her name. Leonie Hampton. There we go. Leonie Hampton. And she had the same kind of idea of trying to encourage her students to look outside of their general area of practice, their general area of interest, and bring those other things in. And at the time, I was very closed off to her suggestions. I remember one particular crit in the first year where I photographed a silversmith, and she looked at one of the things he'd made in the photos. I'll take it outside of his studio, put it on the grass, photograph it there. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. No, I will not do it. And then 2 years later, I was collecting objects to do with silversmiths and other crafts, putting them on a white backdrop in the studio and photographing them away from their environment. So she was absolutely right. But I was too stubborn.
Yeah, you shouldn't lose heart in what you really love. I mean, photojournalism, gets such a kicking, but it's in my heart. That's where I come from, and I will never forget that. But I want to look at other work as well. I think it's really fascinating looking at other people's practice. I really do.
I'm just thinking, I've taught students like you.
Right, okay, Paul, I've got a question for you. You say about the importance of research. I completely agree. As Toby says, we both teach teenagers. My main group are level 2, so they're the ones who they didn't do as well as they might have wanted in their GCSEs, perhaps, and they have to take a slower step. Quite often, they do not believe me in that value of research and how it can help their projects. What would you say to them? What would you say to try and help them understand what they can research?
It's really difficult because of their age. Their brains aren't even wired properly at that age. I mean, if you look at the actual anatomy and physiology of a teenager's brain, it's all over the place. That's why they take risks and don't care. But that's why you got Bob Dylan writing those wonderful songs when he's like 19, because he's not doing them now. Their brains are not actually connected. They don't actually connect till they're about 25. I think all you can keep doing is maybe bringing people in and showing them, examples of that. But they don't want to know at that age. I mean, they know everything anyway, don't they? At 17 or whatever age they are. So it's very difficult. All you can do is try your best. That's all you can do. I mean, I was lucky as well because I went to sixth form when I was 16. And those days as well at comprehensive, the classes were A-level classes are just ridiculously small, like 5 or 6 people in a class. But I had a really good teacher called Mike Fielding, was my English teacher. Now, he really got me into William Blake at that age, and I really did take a lot of notice of him. Even so much now, I'm still in contact with him. He lives in Brighton. We meet up for a coffee like every couple of months. But he really influenced me then. So he got me at 17. And change my way of thinking. So it can be done, but I think it's a very, very difficult job at that age to be able to tell them what to do because, like they do, teenagers know everything anyway. So it's difficult, isn't it?
I wish I was as smart as them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, they do know everything. Yeah. So, but it's just their brains they're not wired. They're not wired properly. Yeah, bless them. I mean, I remember being a teenager. That was you're a wild child, aren't you? Especially a boy. You're just like,
oh yeah. Well, put your hand up if you started photography because you thought you'd get girls. Just me. Stop lying.
Sorry, mate.
Yes, you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Paul in wanting to change the world.
Me too. I was so naive. Yeah, but I was so disappointed within newspapers. I thought that would happen, but yeah, it was a great experience. And as I was saying at the beginning, it was great. It was mid-90s to mid kind of 2000s I was working. So it went from film to digital. And like I said, when we was getting, I remember going to the Scotsman, you get like handfuls of black and white film to go out and you get these big Fuji boxes of 100 films in one box. They just give you the box and you go out, do the work, come back, get all the film processed. And they had all these Leica enlargers in the darkroom. It was great. But then we went to sort of C41 and like I said, we was all over the place. And if you couldn't get back to the office, then if I was in Aberdeen or on the Western Isles somewhere, then you'd have to develop the film there. and then, develop it very quickly and then scan it quickly. And we just had these big kind of mobile scanning machines with a telephone on them. You had to find a telephone line to plug in to actually send the work. It was mad. It didn't always work, so it was, and you would knock on somebody's door in the house. You said, "Can I use your telephone?" "Yeah, come in, it'd be fine." So it was great, but you would be, and also because I was a freelance, I was very interested in what's going on in the north of Ireland as well. A couple of my friends who were working for the Daily Record were working in Belfast, and so I would, if I knew they were there, then I would go, because that meant I could stay on the hotel room floor at the Europa, so I could do that. So you'd always try and, because you're a freelance, you can't afford to do all this, especially doing stuff on spec and stuff. So you'd try and sleep on somebody's floor as well to save a bit of money. So yeah, you would end up developing film all over the place. And with sport as well, you'd be developing film in the changing rooms. But the good thing was that, with sport, especially with rugby or football, you could, you're photographing what's going on in front of you, but then you're photographing the back of their shirts with their numbers, so you could see who they were on the program. But if you didn't know, if you missed the number or the number wasn't quite showing, you could get the film and sort of show it to the manager at halftime. So there's all those kind of shenanigans going on. And places like Dunfermline, which were, Dunfermline got dark at 2:00 in the afternoon. So it was pitch black with hardly any light. So we're shooting colour Fuji 800 and pushing that to 6400. And then developing that in the changing rooms on a 5:00 in the Saturday afternoon. Yeah, but they were good times. Everybody helped out each other as well. So it was good.
But they're the sort of things that in some respects people go, "Oh, well, it's great. We can upload everything straight away from our, Sonys or whatever, straight onto the computer and off it goes." But it misses that little bit of magic, doesn't it? I mean,
manic behaviour going,
yeah.
You're trying to, or what you would do as well. Was in Belfast, you'd have a warming trace up in the morning with all your film nice and warm. So when you in the bathroom, so when you came back, all the film was at the right temperature, and you could just do it. We had these little press kits that had the 3 solutions in them that came in little boxes. So we used those quite a lot. So they were great. Yeah, they were good days. But I just liked that there was a real sense of community then as well. Everybody kind of helped out each other, and also somebody had kind of missed the picture. You would go, "Do you want an egg?"
Yeah.
Give them something. So yeah, it was good.
I've got a bit of a random question, because we did an episode a while ago about the best pictures we never took.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the best picture you think that you never took, or the picture that you never took that you remember the most?
Well, there is that book, isn't there? But have you seen that book, Pictures Not Taken?
No. Who was that?
Oh, have a look at that. It's really good, because if you go to, I'll send you the link later, but if you go to the page at the bottom, they've got like 5 or 6 sound clouds of photographers talking about the picture they missed.
Yeah.
It's a really great book. The picture I actually missed, it was actually when I was working in the NHS, and I was working in cardiac, and this woman had died on the table, and she had blonde hair, and it was just, I don't know, should I say this? It was caked in, it's probably, I would not, would I've taken the picture though? It was this woman being given the last rites on this operating table with the light kind of stream. It was like Luc Delahaye. Have you seen that Luc Delahaye picture in Sarajevo he took, that was in the Independent magazine, where there's a person laid down? Yeah, it was like that. And I'm thinking, I was a professional, I couldn't have done it, but that's one image that kind of stays in my mind, really. And I wouldn't have taken it anyway. It was just an awful scene, really. Awful scenes, terrible scenes. Yeah. So I think that was probably the one for me, I think.
I would say I think we all have them, don't we? That's a really interesting. It's that sort of that conundrum of, this is a beautiful image, or, well, not necessarily a beautiful image, but a powerful moment.
It's not beautiful. Yeah, it's kind of.
It's very emotive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's really interesting. I have this kind of this funny relationship with beautiful, because it's like a funny term that it's like the first degree of the terrible for me. It's just, I don't know. There's something really strange about it. And a lot of people, it's like I remember being at Don McCullen exhibition, and when you go to take Tate Britain, you walk up these marble steps into almost like a cathedral, isn't it? Like a church.
Yeah.
They're scary places, galleries. I'm not, they're not inclusive, I don't think. And you go in there and it's like, people are going round in hushed tones and they're bowing their heads looking at these, all this carnage on the wall. And then they're saying, God, that's so beautiful. And there's like some dead person or somebody, holding their guts in with a pot.
It's like the poetry of World War One as well. You hear the same. You talk about the beauty of the poetry, and it's poetic. Obviously, it's poetry, but you're talking about mustard gas and bodies piled up.
Yeah.
It's not beautiful.
Yeah.
But
it's
the word makes it so.
But is it made beautiful for people to see? I don't. It needs to be kind of discussed, really, beauty in photography. I think it was one word, because there was a lot of words that were used by students that I kind of stopped them using, and beautiful was one of them.
We have form for this one. Phrases not to use. We've got a list.
I've got myself in trouble online for certain words that I refuse to use.
Yeah.
Some words that I kind of think, oh no, Yeah. The other ones I don't like are liminal and ethereal. I mean, like, liminal, a bat is liminal, isn't it? A bat it's not quite what it meant to be, or a hotel room is like liminal. But a tree is not liminal.
It's a tree.
So, it's a tree. So it's kind of like, it's just me. I think I'm completely wrong on this. I think it's just me being pedantic, I think. But yeah, I think...
This is a place for that, don't worry.
This
is what we are.
I don't think it is pedantic, and you've now got me considering adding beautiful to my list, or only in certain situations. You say about Don McCullin,
sure.
his more recent landscapes of the Southwest, as landscapes, they are beautiful, but you can't use the same term really about his journalistic work.
No, but I don't think his landscapes are beautiful, because he's very damaged goods, and those images they're what he's trying to, they're the dark corners of his life, aren't they? They're obviously so dark. I wouldn't say they were beautiful. They're just damaged goods. They're damaged goods, really, I think. I mean, I see he was closing his darkroom, actually, Don McCullin. I was going to write to him and ask him if he spare stuff. I was going to say, do you have any spare reels? Those metal reels I'm after. Yes.
Did I read right that it's going... No, it's going up to auction, I think, everything.
Is it really? Oh, goodness. I thought they put it in like a museum or something, like Francis Bacon's, his studio would be great, wouldn't it?
What I'm hoping is going to happen, I don't know when the auction is, or if it's even happened. It might have already been in the past. My hope is that the V&A will just take the whole lot.
They should do, really.
And then just build a
community darkroom.
A community darkroom in London. I love that, but
John's place.
A replica of his darkroom, using his stuff that, as students, we could take them to, and they can see how
that would be a great thing, wouldn't it, to do? Yeah. And he could do like a little walk around or something. It'd be great.
And just stroke his enlarger.
You're a bit worried.
I'm getting a bit worried.
You would too. Don't.
But that's a good way of spending things like Arts Council funding, as opposed to some of the other ways it's spent.
Yeah, that would be such a great idea to do it. And I love, because I think Francis Bacon's studio's in Dublin, isn't it? See, that's another, about research as well. I mean, Francis Bacon was a photographer. He absolutely loved photography. He painted from photographs. He commissioned photographers to take pictures of people that he would then paint. He never painted from life. And what he would do as well, which I absolutely adored. See, this is how hyperfixated I am. He used a book called Positioning for Radiographers, and it was a training manual for radiographers when they're like, to position a patient, like if they're having a breast x-ray, they have their hand up like this. There's all these beautiful, I said it, all these images of people in different positions, and Francis Bacon would cut them up and then pin them back together so they were completely deformed, and then paint from that. I just absolutely love it. So I found a book, because you need to get this, it's still in print, but I got the one from the 1948 edition, which I think he had, because the photographs are older images. So, but that was only like £12, and that's what I'm saying as well. Going back to beautiful as well, I think that's why research is so important, because by doing research, you're then able to contextualize your own practice, your own work, and others as well. You just don't go around saying, "Oh, that's beautiful," because that's all you can say. And as I used to say, I don't want an opinion, I want a reading. So I think it's really, that's why I think research is so important. I mean, I just love it. I love research so much.
I'm going to pick something up that you said about galleries not being inclusive. I think that's a really important point, because we've discussed this, not on the podcast, but just in general, that there's a rarefied atmosphere sometimes around photography, because it's moved from magazines, newspapers,
into frames.
Into frames. And even the magazines that exist are £15, £20 to get a good a photography magazine. I think it's, considering photography itself was the art form, it started for the relatively well off, then became an art form for the masses. It's kind of gone back now to being a sort of a bastion of middle and upper classes in a certain respect. I hope to see it change again, really, but I wonder whether you were sort of, if that was what you were kind of saying, or if I'm reading into something there.
Yeah, I think they have. And I mean, the photographers are very much, they do seem to be, I mean, I know it's a general, I shouldn't really be saying this really, but I think, people want to put work into frames onto a white wall for some reason. I don't think that's not what photography is about. But there aren't many options other than that at the moment, as you were saying. The magazines, the work is not being shown generally. So, photographers are pushed into becoming, artists with cameras, and they want to go into a gallery for that validation as well. So, but you can't blame photographers for doing it, because that's the only option they've got, really, unless you do crowdfunding for books, and that's quite a difficult thing to do as well.
Yeah. So this is I think that is the only real option. Revenue stream as well is crowdfunding or Kickstarter, things like that.
Sure.
Which is,
Yeah.
Well, we live in hope. I'd say
we do live in hope. Things do change. Yeah, of course.
And I think something I saw on your Instagram this week or last week was about funding going towards sort of new blood, as it were, people coming in, or rather than the same old names.
Same old. Yeah. Well, it's a very. There are still gatekeepers. I think we all know that. Especially within funding, and also within galleries. I hate to say it. It's always been like that ever since I can remember. When I used to go to the photographer's gallery, and it was the same people being shown, or if it wasn't the same people, it's somebody else's friend who knew him, because you could tell it was their friend who now had the next exhibition. So it is quite gatekeeper, and also it becomes very safe as well. I think the work has got to be safe.
Yeah.
So, or it fits into a trend, I suppose. I don't know. I don't want to be too negative about it, because I think it's it's a great thing. To see exhibitions and things. I mean, I saw what exhibitions I see. There was a small Nan Golding exhibition in London in a very small little office building. That was great. I loved that. So there are still things to be seen, and they are good. But I think, as you were saying, I think the funding should be going towards younger people, and there are organisations that purposefully do that as well, of course. So it's not all bad.
No.
I think there is a shift in that. I just saw today Cafe Royale Books are doing a call out for the coming year and a half's worth of publications. And they're going to be picking some bigger names in there as well, but they're quite keen to go with lesser known photographers, new photographers who've got interesting work.
Sure.
So that's really nice to see. And there's something else I saw. Oh yes, of course, Remedy, that photo festival you just got up by you, Toby.
Yeah.
Again, it's a brand new festival. They're looking for new work, new ideas.
Good.
So I think there is maybe I'm just being hopeful, but I think there is a
Yeah.
shift.
But I also think, the big art institutions could take some responsibility as well. I mean, like with, I say the Don
Agreed.
McCullen exhibition, it was the cheapest ticket was £20, even for concessions. That's ridiculous. They've got the money and they've got the resources to do this as well, and to help up and coming photographers and artists. By encouraging them to go to these scary places, by reducing the ticket price for people who, students especially, or on concessions. It should be there, because if you're a young struggling photojournalist, you wouldn't be able to afford to go and see that Don McCullen exhibition at £23 a ticket. Get to London as well.
When all the galleries were free entry.
Exactly. Yeah.
And okay, yes, having to pay for big exhibitions, fair enough. But yeah, bringing price down. But now you have to pay to go into the photographer's gallery.
Yeah.
I know, for exhibitions, you do. You can still go use the cafe and stuff and hang around in the
print room, and
book
bookshop.
room, the bookshop. Yeah. Oh, the bookshop's so dangerous, though, isn't it? You don't want to go in there with your card.
It's dangerous even when I'm not there.
I know, it's such a dangerous
My
place.
wife runs a school trip to London every year with her art students. And what she does is she rings me at my lunchtime from the photographer's gallery. The trip's actually planned round this event. Yes. She has her lunch is planned so that it's my lunch at work. And she does a little video around the shop and goes, which ones do you want? And that's my one sort of chance to get as many books as possible that she has to bring back on the train with a bunch of sixth form students.
I just got so many books. I've actually stopped buying them now because I haven't got no more room. But I'm obsessed with research, so I am buying a lot of books and a lot of theory as well on books. So, but I've kind of had to stop. I think it comes a point where you have to stop.
What's your favourite theory book?
Towards the Philosophy of Photography by Willem Flusser.
That was a very quick answer. That was
a very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him because he's kind of really going against the grain, and photographers don't really like him very much because he wants you to take risks really, and not to be obsessed with your cameras, but actually look and not be restricted by the camera program. He does believe the camera is coded and programmed, and the camera is it's a simple black box with complex inner workings to realize a program. The camera does what the photographer wants it to do, but the camera does what the camera is programmed to do. So, did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So the camera, the photographer does what the camera he wants it to do, and the photographer does what the camera is programmed to do. Yeah. So you've got to fight against the system, really. So I quite like that, and because nobody kind of, photographers are never encouraged to think about, the cooperation between, or the conflict between camera and camera user. That tension between the photographer and the camera is rarely ever explored. What we're doing with this camera, and let's talk about the camera, not the make of the camera, or but actually what it's actually doing. And it is programmed. We've got the shutter speed, we've got the aperture. We've got nothing else, so we need to introduce kind of glitches into the program, because the freedom is playing against the camera, as Flusser says. But I really like that, because I've always tried to rebel against things ever since I was young, and it's not always worked. But I quite like putting grains of sand into the cogs. And the best thing I found one of the best things when I was at Falmouth, there was a Brazilian photographer, and because Flusser taught in Brazil, although he was an emigre from Czechoslovakia, he taught in Brazil. There's a lot of papers that were published in Portuguese that haven't been translated to English. So he could, when he was back in Brazil, we could go through all these papers in the archive of Flusser. He phoned me about 4:00 in the morning saying, Paul, I've got to tell you, I'm on a bus with the Landless Farm Workers Association. We're going somewhere in the Amazonian forest to stop the delivery of this mine working equipment to drill into the Amazon. And he said, yeah, it's because I'm trying to stop the apparatus. I'm fighting against the apparatus. And I thought, that's it. My work is done.
Yeah.
Because that's it.
That's that self-actualization on Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, it's like, that's it. I've done, because he really got into. There's not many people really like him, because he does question everything about your photography, and it's not very, a lot of, there are a lot of photographers are kind of like reluctant to adopt such an approach, as kind of Flusser has suggested, about introducing glitches into the program. So when you've got something goes wrong in your camera or your film, then that's a positive. That's that small space of freedom you've got against the apparatus. So when you get a glitch, kind of like embrace the error. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Fight against perfectionism of everything. I love.
Yeah, of course, because I remember, I gave a talk to oh God, who was it? I gave a talk to just when I came back from the West Bank, and there was all this kind of death and destruction going on, and someone came up to me after and said, "Oh, that left-hand corner, it's a bit blown, it's overexposed there."
There's always those people, though.
What am I doing?
Yeah, there's always people like that, though.
So I don't mind, when I'm, I kept my darkroom. A lot of people laughed at me when I did the early 2000s. Everybody was going digital, so I kept my darkroom. Everybody was laughing at me, and now they're seeing people come back and say, "Could I?" No, you can't use it. But anyway, so when I'm in there, I don't aim for perfection. If things aren't quite right, I don't mind, I'm not, I'm not so precious now over everything have to be perfectly exposed, and pre-flashed and stuff. So. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the darkroom, of course I do, but I'm not aiming for perfection. There was a student who bought some film of her grandfather who fought in the Second World War in the desert, and he was a pilot, an army observation pilot, and the negatives came in, and they had all fungus around the edges of the negative. And I was like, I was joyful, it was such a great thing to see, and using that in the work, I thought that really gives it real good context as well. So we've got these images that we're printing up of her grandfather's work, and it's all covered in fungus. It's great. I know it's a bit weird, but that's the way.
But the thing is, in a world where you can make a perfect image without really putting an awful lot of thought into it, the imperfection is what actually makes an image have soul.
Yeah, it does really. And as William Blake said, if we were perfect, we wouldn't be able to ask for forgiveness. That's like, oh yeah, I want that.
That's
have that.
Brilliant quote.
It is, isn't it? I've got it in my darkroom. Yeah, because it's like that's what you want,
Yeah, I mean, what picture was it you saw recently-ish, and it had a thumbprint on it? Who was that? That was.
Oh,
go on.
It was
it
the steerage by.
He's going to cut here and instantly answer it without the
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It's one of the greats.
It wasn't Walker Evans or anyone, was it?
No, it was a bit of that same era.
I love Walker Evans. Yeah.
It was the steerage. Name starts with S or surname starts with S.
Oh, Stieglitz.
There we go.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Ooh. Yeah, I saw it at the V&A.
Oh, brilliant!
And it's a beautiful print. So I'm using that word, but it is a beautiful print.
Great. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and there's a thumbprint with Fix in the image where it's just
you do. Yeah.
And I'm looking at it. I'm a better printer than Alfred Stieglitz.
Because you've never put a thumbprint on it.
I wouldn't let it go in the gallery.
No, true. I think he gets a pass for being dead and not able to stop it. I think, but yeah, but if the greats can have a thumbprint on their work,
exactly. Yeah.
Then also, I think if you're looking at a photograph and you're looking for the blurry corner or a thumbprint or the soft focus, you're not looking at the photograph. You're just looking at the elements, the technical skill. You're not looking at what the photograph's telling you. You're not looking at the story, are you?
There's a great example of that, and you know what I'm going to say, Toby.
Oh yeah, go on.
Paul, did you go to the Elton John collection exhibition at the Tate Modern a few years ago?
No, I didn't. But I read the reviews on it, but no, I couldn't get to it.
It was an absolutely brilliant show.
Everything was in gold frames, wasn't it? A lot of things were in gold frames.
Yeah, there was a lot of gold frames, and in one room, when I go to a gallery, I sort of go around looking at everything, and I sort of just stand. I would just turn. I would look at the space and try and take it all in that one sort of collective way.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed something shining I was like, what is that? I went over, and on a Man Ray, there was this little speck of purple glitter. It's so Elton John. But in another room, there is a print of the migrant mother, Dorothea Lange.
Yeah.
One of the most famous portraits of all time. It's an incredible photograph. It's the story that it conveys is so iconic of that period of the Dust Bowl.
Mm,
It's out of focus.
yeah. But that's
And
what I'm saying.
I never noticed until I saw it as a physical print. And every time I see it now, I can't unsee that this beautiful, this beautiful
You're saying
story. I'm saying it was.
Yeah.
I can't help it now, but it is,
Yeah, well,
and
yeah.
it's blurry.
But that's what I was saying. That's what we have to do. We have to smuggle human intentions into it, and forcing the camera to do what it's not designed to do. Otherwise, how are we going to find those spaces of freedom that I talk about? Otherwise, we're just illustrating the program. So the thumbprints, everything else, all the glitches in there, they're great. I just love that. It just shows that like imperfection. But obviously, that's not acceptable to a lot of people. But
Well, I mean, we called our podcast Almost in Focus, so that tells you all you need to know, really.
Exactly, yeah. And I know that's really corny, that quote that Cartier-Bresson said as well. That sharpness is a what do you say?
Bourgeoisie concept.
A bourgeoisie concept, yeah. As he's holding there with his Leica M3 drinking coffee. Yeah, it's like great. Bless him.
Coming from a family with money.
I know. My friend, if you come across a really good pal of mine called Jeremy Sutton Hibbert, you come across him. He met Sorry?
I know his name.
Yeah. He met Cartier-Bresson in Edinburgh, and he was real grumpy to him. So it's like you want to talk to him, and he's just like, go away, hitting him with his stick. Didn't want to talk to him. But
I think there's a few of the let's call them the bigger names in photography who end up like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they get to a stage in their life. But another thing I think you should do as well is whether you do. Do you know I've really come across, and I've pulled them back out of my whole book range. But do you know those little photo file books that are really small? Have you seen those little tiny ones? They're really good, aren't they? And they fit inside your camera bag as well, which I really love. So the Eugene Smith one is really lovely, and also the Frank one is good. So you can think of what kind of book would you have in your camera bag? Obviously, you couldn't have like Workers by Salgado or something, but you could have just something really small in your. And I don't mean about doing malperformance. There's malperformance on the train reading in your book. It's just these little books that you can have that are just fit inside the camera bag and not too heavy. Because there are loads out there.
I'm a big fan of the Fiden 55s, which is the same kind of idea. The photo file is the little square.
Oh, I know.
Photograph
Yeah.
Love those.
Sure.
You mentioned my favorite photographer, so Eugene Smith. He's my hero.
Yeah. But he did sneaky things as well, though. Don't forget.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As a human being, deplorable.
Yeah, but he was, again, introducing glitches into the program by, cutting out things and putting them into the photograph.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Who's your favourite photographer at the moment? Whose work you really enjoy? Yeah.
My goodness me. I kind of flip because I'm sort of up in the spectrum somewhere. I kind of read 4 or 5 books at the same time and I never finish them. I go back to them, start one and everything. But a recent book I'm just looking at is, and I was after this book for such a long time. It was about £300 or something ridiculous. And I found a copy, £5 in Australia, and it's called The Edge of Civilization by Eddie Van Wiesel. Have you seen this book? So he's my favourite photographer at the moment.
I like the look of that.
I do.
But yeah, £25. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, the picture I was looking at, there was one picture in here and I thought, oh God, this is so glitchy. There's so many, if I can find it, I pretty much going to find it now. I can't find it. I thought it looked very glitchy and there was all problems with the negative, but there's not. It's just he's shot through not shot, sorry, I hate that word. He's taken the work through a bus window to give that scratchy appearance. Find it now. But yeah, everything's kind of like a bit blurry and a bit kind of out of focus and things.
Oh, that's nice.
And yeah,
the tones are gorgeous in that.
I was just saying the tones look great on that.
But yeah, that the cover there, it's all glitchy as well. But actually, I think it's taken through a bus window.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. So but I said Lace my favourite photographer, and I quite like Renee Matisse. I'm looking at her work as well. She's on for the Photographers Gallery.
Yeah.
So I kind of flit, and then then 1 minute I really like Catherine Leroy, and then I really like Stanley Green as well. He's a great photographer. I really love his work, and I met him once, and he's also kind of on spectrum as well, and he's kind of all over the place. And I loved him. He was lovely. But yeah, I kind of flip between people really. So I don't really have. I have one at the moment, but Eddie Van Vlies was my one at the moment today. But he'll change. Next week it'll be somebody else. But yeah, I loved. Obviously, I love Eugene Smith. He was a kind of like one of the first ones. When you only got amateur photographer to look at, they would, be Eugene Smith, Robert Capa, Don McCullen.
Yeah. Well, they were the bad boys of photography, though, aren't they? They're the sort of
they're kind of the anchors, aren't they? Really, I suppose.
Yeah,
but you kind of like, looking at the work of Stanley Green. I mean, he's just fabulous photographer. And everything's not in focus. It's all a bit blurry and stuff. So I really do like that. But yeah. So you're brought up on those, and then you kind of like, then you can go. Another book by Larry Tao called El Salvador. I don't know if you've come across that. It's another great book. Yeah. So those are kind of like my groundings, and then you go off like a mind map, isn't it? You go off all these other ones as well. It becomes your religion, really.
I was going to say, have you ever seen School of Rock, where he does the history of rock on the board?
Yes. Yeah. It's
like
the same.
Like that with books, and then I have to go, well, I can't talk about that one at school. I can't, can't do Larry Clark's Tulsa. Good, amazing work.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I remember getting that off my, because it could. I got that photocopied by one of my teachers when I was in Edinburgh, because it wasn't republished then, and it was a really rare book. So he went home and photocopied it for me. Yeah. But yeah, Tulsa, he was mad. He's completely mad. And also, as well, the films he wanted to make like kids, you couldn't show that to your. No.
But they're amazing. They're amazing images of a time, and that it's that thing you sort of. I try to say to my students, because I regret this. When I was a teenager, had I photographed the life I was living, those photographs would have been amazing. But I was too busy living it.
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm really old, so I grew up in the 70s where there were like no rules. We had adventure playgrounds. I suppose that's where I got my idea of rebellion. I think that's what they were used for, actually, because they were like wild places. People would donate scrap cars to the adventure playground. The first thing you would do was smash all the glass in. And I was like 9 or 10 years old. Smash all the glass in and put a match in the petrol tank. And boom, you would end up with no eyebrows, and a first-degree burn or something. But you wouldn't do it again. You learn not to do. You took risks, and there were all these things going on. With 6-inch nails, throwing them at people, burning things, always having a fire. But the good thing is, and my English teacher, as I was saying earlier, Mike Fielding, who introduced me to William Blake, sent me this wonderful paper, this research paper on the psychology of adventure playgrounds. The idea was for you to smash up things in a controlled environment. But then you got fed up with that and you started to build things. And we actually did. This is what we actually did. We built a little house next to the main kind of hall, and we wired it in, plumbed it in. We put cavity wall insulation in. We put a 3-piece suite in, and we had a living roof as well. This is like 1976. And then we used to hire it out, cause it was, to courting couples. Because once the adventure playground was locked, you can get back under the fence. And we had a padlock. We gave them the key. They would use it for the night. And we get paid off with a couple of bottles of cider or something. So it was like, he was mad. You grew up in that kind of environment, taking risks and knowing you could actually change the world. You could destroy things, but you could build things. So you came from that kind of environment. And that's why I kind of like, I've tried to, I've never accepted the narrative really. And it's not, I don't think it's it hasn't always helped me. I've kind of liked to work in institutions, like I worked in the NHS, but then you rebel against them. But being on the spectrum, you need that control as well. But then you want to rebel. And then, working in Falmouth University, it's very controlled, but you want to kind of rebel. I've always done that. I've always worked in institutions for some reason. Yeah. Because I like that safe safe kind of control, but also, you can try and rebel against it, really.
It's a system that you can fight, but safely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
safely within a controlled environment. Yeah,
Yeah.
And you've also got that sense of community that you were talking about earlier, from
exactly.
the
Yeah,
newspaper days. And,
yeah.
you're part of a larger team.
Exactly. Yeah, and I really do miss that. Sorry about the dogs. Stop in a minute. But
It's all right.
We had a Cocker Spaniel on last week.
oh,
And was
okay.
that
This is she's half Labrador, half Taliban, so she's a rescue dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit mad. But anyway, what we're saying, yeah, that sense of community, and like having the darkroom, the office, and mixing with journalists as well, in real time, not online. You got that contact, and you got those little snippets of information for, doing another some more work on something else. So I do miss that. Yeah, of course I do. And it's a real shame that's kind of gone. But times move on. We can't all be dinosaurs. Things do move on, really. And there are good things about moving on and going into the future. So.
Plus there'll be a bunch of people in 20 years time reminiscing about this and going,
Yeah,
oh,
of
do you remember
course.
when we used webcams
Get on our
and things?
phones. Yeah.
Oh,
The
archaic.
phone, yeah. We're doom scrolling at 3 o'clock in the morning. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
My poor thumbs. Yeah, it will be that. Yeah, of course it will be. Yeah.
I think on that note we shall.
Yeah, it's been great.
Call
And
it an evening. That's been
thank you for letting me come on. Yeah, thank you very much.
We've really enjoyed
it's been
that.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. And this one's due out in not 2 weeks.
2 weeks time, yeah.
2 weeks time it'll go out. But we'll tag you in all the social media-y things. And
yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for giving me your time.
Anytime. Yeah, anytime.
I'd say we may well have you back for another discussion, to be fair.
Oh, yeah, on strange places where we've developed C41, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think we're talking about doing a series of processing film in random places.
I think that's such a great idea. Yeah, it is such a great idea to do that. Especially in a very nice, comfortable zone, we can have a pint of Guinness. That's so civilized, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could do it like do a group mass pub visit. Go out, do a lot of work, then bring it back to the pub and develop your film in the pub.
Exactly.
But
how great can that be?
What I did last summer on a photo walk is I took my large format camera and a Jagley processing cassette.
Oh, right.
And we did a group photo of everyone who was on the photo walk. And then at the end, when we're in the pub, so it's all out in the beer garden, and I'm there developing the photograph in front of everyone on the table. And some of them are quite new to working with film.
Yeah.
They just use labs, so they've never actually seen the whole. Right, now goes the developer, and I've got a pint glass there myself as well.
No, it's so lovely. I think it's almost. I mean, Stanley Green was talking about it being almost like a religious experience at the altar. When you're up for communion, you're sort of going like this. With your film, it's all very kind of meditative, isn't it? You sort of like doing this, and I absolutely adore it. But for me, I know it's a physical process of doing it, but it's part of the overall process of being a photographer and really enjoying yourself. And you just do it for yourself, and in the end, you end up, it's like for me now. I'm thinking, well, if only people want to see my work, come to my house. I'll make a cake. We can have a cup of tea, and we'll go through my work and your work as well. That's a lovely thing to do.
I think the number of epiphanies you have while processing a roll of film as well, because your mind is so.
I know.
You're zen-like.
I know, and I've I've still got the timer clock I nicked from my college that I still use, little Smith's clock. I love that, But it's great. It's a great thing to do. But it's not what all photography is about. Like I don't think one is better than the other or whatever.
No,
I think it's whatever suits your process, and helps you. I think it's good.
Horses for courses. What works for one job isn't necessarily right for the other.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, thank you again. It's been a fantastic evening.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening, and we'll send you links to this when it's done.
Grand.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
Have a good evening.
No worries.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.